Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Ammar and I am the co-officer of VP membership in Islamabad Toastmasters Club. I welcome you all to this series of interviews and candid conversations with senior member of Islamabad Toastmasters Club. Toastmaster International is a non-profit educational organization which helps people develop communication and leadership skills. It has more than 500,000 members in 15,800 clubs across 149 countries. In Pakistan, we have almost 41 clubs. Islamabad Toastmasters Club is one of the oldest one. Today we have with us DTM Akbar Jan Marwat Saab. He is an experienced Toastmasters and he has kindly given us time and opportunity to learn from his amazing journey he has as a member of Toastmasters. DTM Akbar Jan Marwat Saab is an avid reader, an industrialist and an author of 4 books. He is one of the pioneer member of Islamabad Toastmasters Club. He is a distinguished Toastmaster, which is the highest level of educational achievement in Toastmasters program. He has given numerous talks, speeches, and mentored many Toastmasters and won many contests. Let's have some conversation with him about his journey through life and in Toastmasters. Assalamu alaikum, DTM Akbar Jan Sahab.
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you so much for inviting me to this interview.
So my first question to you about your start of the journey. Who introduced you to the Toastmaster Club? How did you decide that you should join the Toastmasters Club?
Well, that was quite interesting. Back in 2009, once we were having tea at a cafe, my wife, myself, and a family friend who's also a friend of my wife, Mrs. Tanveer Munir Khan. So, knowing of my interest, she just casually said that, Akbar, are you aware of this club that has been set up? Where, even she was not aware of the exact objectives and aims of the club, but she said that it was a kind of a club where you get to make speeches and have discussions and so on. In fact, I had been looking out for such a place where one could sort of present one's ideas and so on. So I told her to give me the address or to take me one day. And then after a few days, she took me to this place. It had newly started. At that time, the club was situated in Lok Virsa in Shakarpania. At that time, Mohsin Lodi, who was also known to Mrs. Khan, he was the president of the club. He was, in fact, the second president of the club.
Being an articulate and proficient speaker in a public speaking event, please share a situation where you had a challenge and how you handled it.
I was already used to public speaking. I did not have much trouble with public speaking per se because I had been involved in student politics and so on. And in fact, I had even contested an election before joining the Toastmaster Club. So, in an election, one has to make many public speeches, many extempore public speeches. So, public speaking as such was not a problem for me. Neither was stage fright a problem for me. But, of course, having said that, once you join Toastmasters and the tips that you learn from there and the skills that you learn from there, so that makes you a much better and a more confident speaker. After having joined the Toastmasters and after having spent some time over there and learned the skills of public speaking, I have noticed that it helped me in my activities tremendously. 2 of the occasions that I can remember are a few times when I was invited to an interview on the television. So over there, the training that I received from the Toastmasters came in very handy. And then the second occasion was that when I was a government minister, a provincial minister, a few years back. So over there, we would be called upon to make a speech without being informed, without any prior preparation. And it was the training of the Toastmasters, I think, which it really helped me. I could always tackle the situation, whichever I was put.
So my next question would be, what life tips can you offer to our audience to do well in life, just like you have achieved so much in life? What 1 or 2 tips that everyone must know?
Frankly speaking, I don't think of myself as somebody who's qualified enough to give life tips, as you put it, to other people. But I think the only desire that is there in my mind, and which I feel other people should also have the same feeling, that one should try to improve every day, no matter how old you are, no matter how senior a position you achieve, but there is always room for improvement. And one should never sort of sit back and think that I've done everything. So Toastmasters is a wonderful place where you learn something new in every meeting. And the other thing is that in Toastmasters, you get an opportunity to interact with your fellow Toastmasters, with other people, with speakers, and you always learn something from everybody. So I think this is the best thing about Toastmasters.
Can you please share a story about your upbringing which brought joy to your life and you still remember as a fond memory?
I am the only child of my parents. I didn't have brothers or sisters. So in that way, my childhood was quite lonely because I was, there were just my parents and me. I had some close friends. I think it is an established fact by now that something that they call the lonely child or the only child syndrome. Only children like me, I think they invariably face it because the upbringing is different from children who grow up with their siblings. That way, it was a kind of a pampered childhood because naturally being the only child, the parents you're their only responsibility, so they tend to fuss more over you and they tend to give you more time. So I think it was that kind of a childhood. And of course, there are very fond memories that I have. I perhaps cannot think of any one particular memory. It is a stream of memories that comes to my mind. And I especially feel a little emotional about it because I recently lost my mother, as you know. I think like most childhoods, I think I had a very lovely childhood on which I look back with a lot of cherish and a lot of nostalgia.
If you could solve one world problem, what would it be and how might you go about it?
Well, Amar, that is a kind of a hypothetical question because I think the world has so many problems and there is so much suffering then that one would not really know where to begin. As a human being and a humanitarian, I think some of the most important problems to solve would first be to solve the health problems of the world. Because as you know, the great part of our world, we have so much disparity of resources and wealth in the developed Western countries of the world and in the poor countries in Asia and Africa, where children and people are dying because of lack of food. Even in this day and age, people are dying of preventable diseases because of lack of medicine. Pandemic of COVID brought this disparity into sharp focus. The rich countries had stockpiles of vaccines to vaccinate their people, so many times over. But the poor countries still do not have the mandatory vaccines to vaccinate their people. I think one of the most important problems is the problem of health and the problem of education. These are the problems which need priority to be solved. And of course, then there is the problem of conflict resolution, because most of these problems, like health and food problems, they're generated because of conflicts, which create poverty and it creates refugees, like it's happening in Ukraine nowadays. These are some of the problems which I would try to solve if I have an opportunity.
Can you share, please, your favorite quote, saying, or verse?
I can't exactly recall a quote, but in your introduction, as you said that I'm an avid reader, and in fact I would show you my library after this interview. So a quote about books that I like very much is by the author Ray Bradbury, I think, who wrote Fahrenheit 451. And I think his quote is that one of the worst crimes that you can commit against books, which is even worse than burning them, is by not reading them. So I think this is one of the quotes and this is one of the mottos. I read myself and I try to motivate other people to read also. The quote that I like is also related to this aspect of life.
What environment or things makes you more creative?
Well, I think the only creative pursuit that I follow is writing. I have, as you have mentioned in your introduction, I've written a few books, and I also write articles for the newspapers. I also write book reviews, sometimes the books that I've read. My creative pursuits have not gone beyond that. I mean, I know people who are multi-talented. They can paint and they can play a certain musical instrument and all that. The only creative ability that I have, perhaps, is that I'm a struggling writer.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I sometimes think about this myself also, and I feel that if I would start my life all over again, perhaps I would be happy to become a lawyer, because I like to think logically and I like to address problems logically and with reason. So I think that is something which a good lawyer is supposed to do.
Please share a message for our audience who is listening, or just a tip or guidance to a new Toastmaster or who has yet to join a Toastmaster club. What advice would you give to them?
Well, Amar, as far as my message for new Toastmasters is concerned, I would tell them to absolutely avail of the opportunity that the Toastmaster Club offers you. And I can guarantee that you are not going to regret it. Because public speaking and communication skills and leadership skills are something which are very important in all fields of life. And my general message would be that I think one should always try to strive to improve oneself. And one should always try to make your future better than your past. And always try to become a better person and try to improve yourself intellectually. One should never stop participating in pursuits which richens your mind and which helps you grow intellectually.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us time and opportunity to gain insights from your journey through Toastmasters and life. It was a pleasure talking to you and learning from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
This concludes our candid conversation with DTM Akbar Jan Marwat Saab. Thank you for his time and his patience while answering our questions. I will see you in our next conversation, inshallah.